morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of Buckingham Palace as Captain James Morrison adjusted his red uniform one final time. After 23 years of faithful service to the crown, this would be his last week as a royal guard. The thought filled him with both pride and melancholy as he walked through the corridors he had protected for over 2 decades. James had seen 3 generations of royals grow up within these walls. He remembered Prince William as a mischievous boy running through the hallways, and he had watched Prince Harry learn to ride his first bicycle in the palace gardens. But today felt different. There was an unusual tension in the air that made his experienced instincts sharpen. The palace staff moved with hurried steps, their whispered conversations stopping abruptly whenever James passed by. Something was happening, but nobody seemed willing to share what it was. Even Mrs. Henderson, the head housekeeper who had always been friendly with James, avoided his eyes when she passed him in the corridor. Queen Camilla had been acting strangely for the past few weeks. James had noticed during his regular security rounds that her light stayed on well into the early hours of the morning. The kitchen staff mentioned that she barely touched her meals, and her personal secretary had been making unusual requests for complete privacy during certain hours of the day. As James made his way to the East Wing for his afternoon security check, he encountered Dr. William Hayes, the royal physician, leaving Queen Camilla's private quarters with a worried expression. The doctor carried a small black bag and seemed lost in thought. When he noticed James, he quickly composed himself and nodded politely before hurrying away. The incident struck James as odd because Dr. Hayes typically announced his visits to the security team in advance. There had been no such notification today, and the doctor's secretive departure raised questions in James's mind. He made a mental note to review the visitor logs later. Lady Sarah Pemberton, Queen Camilla's closest friend and confidant, arrived at the palace around 3 in the afternoon. James watched from his post as she was escorted directly to the Queen's private chambers without the usual formalities. Lady Sarah's face was pale, and she clutched a manila envelope tightly in her hands. The afternoon proceeded with an unusual number of private meetings in Queen Camilla's quarters. James observed several individuals entering and leaving, including the Queen's personal lawyer, her financial advisor, and 2 people he didn't recognize. Each visitor carried themselves with the weight of serious business, and none of them made eye contact with the palace staff. During his evening rounds, James noticed that the Queen's personal maid, Maria, was crying softly as she cleaned the silver in the service corridor. When he asked if she was all right, Maria quickly wiped her tears and claimed she was simply feeling emotional about a family matter. But James had worked with Maria for 8 years, and he could tell when she was hiding something. The palace kitchen, usually bustling with activity during dinner preparation, was unusually quiet. The head chef, Pierre, stood staring out the window instead of overseeing the meal preparation. When James approached him, Pierre mentioned that Queen Camilla had requested all her meals be delivered to her private dining room for the remainder of the week. She would not be joining King Charles for their usual evening dinners. As night fell, James began his final security round of the day. The palace felt heavier than usual, as if the very walls were holding their breath. He checked every door, every window, and every corridor with the same dedication he had shown for over 2 decades. But tonight, something felt different about his routine. Walking past Queen Camilla's chambers, James noticed an unusual glow coming from beneath her door. It wasn't the warm yellow light of the usual lamps, but a blue-white light that seemed to flicker occasionally. He paused for a moment, listening carefully, but heard only muffled voices from within. The voices belonged to Queen Camilla and someone else, though James couldn't identify the second person. Their conversation was too quiet to understand, but the tone suggested urgency and concern. James respected the royal family's privacy completely, so he continued his rounds without lingering. However, as he walked away, he heard what sounded like papers rustling and drawers being opened and closed repeatedly. The sounds continued for nearly an hour, which was unusual for the Queen's typical evening routine. She was known for her structured schedule and rarely deviated from her regular habits. Later that evening, James noticed increased activity in the Palace Communications Center. Staff members who usually left by 6 o'clock were still present well past 9. The head of communications, Mr. Thompson, was making numerous phone calls, and his assistants were working frantically on their computers. When James checked the security monitors in the control room, he observed that several news vans had gathered outside the palace gates. This was not uncommon, but the timing seemed coordinated with the unusual activity inside the palace. The reporters appeared to be waiting for something specific, though no official announcements were scheduled. The night security team briefing was shorter than usual. Their supervisor, Commander Roberts, provided only basic instructions and avoided answering questions about the increased activity. He emphasized that all staff should maintain absolute discretion about anything they might observe during their duties. As James prepared to end his shift, he made one final walk through the corridors. The palace was quieter now, but the tension remained palpable. Most of the staff had gone home, and the royal family had retired to their private quarters. Only the essential night staff remained on duty. Walking past the Queen's chambers one last time, James noticed that the unusual blue-white light was still visible beneath her door. The flickering had stopped, but the intensity seemed to have increased. He could no longer hear voices, but occasionally there was the sound of movement within the room. James documented his observations in the daily security log, noting the unusual visitor activity and the late-night meetings. As a veteran guard, he understood that royal life often involved confidential matters that required discretion. However, his instincts told him that tomorrow would bring revelations that would change everything. Before leaving the palace, James took one last look at the building that had been his second home for over 2 decades. Whatever was happening behind Queen Camilla's door would soon become clear, and his final days of service might prove to be the most significant of his entire career. The next morning arrived with an unexpected commotion at the palace gates. James arrived for his shift to find Commander Roberts speaking urgently with 2 men in dark suits who clearly weren't regular visitors. Their serious expressions and the way they carried themselves suggested they were from some kind of government agency. As James entered the palace, he immediately sensed that the atmosphere had become even more tense overnight. The usual morning chatter among the staff was replaced by hushed whispers and worried glances. Several maids were gathering in small groups, speaking quietly, before quickly dispersing when supervisors approached. Mrs. Henderson approached James with an unusual request. Queen Camilla wanted her chambers thoroughly cleaned, but only by the most trusted staff members. Furthermore, any items found during the cleaning were to be handled with extreme care and reported immediately to her personal secretary. This type of specific instruction was highly unusual for routine cleaning. The morning briefing with the security team was more detailed than typical. Commander Roberts emphasized that all personnel should be extra vigilant and report any unusual activities immediately. He mentioned that there might be increased media attention over the next few days, though he didn't explain why. Dr. Hayes returned to the palace around 10 in the morning, this time with an appointment properly logged with security. However, he brought with him another doctor whom James didn't recognize. The second physician carried a large medical bag and appeared to be a specialist of some kind. They were immediately escorted to Queen Camilla's private quarters. While stationed in the East Corridor, James overheard a phone conversation between the Queen's personal secretary and someone at the Prime Minister's office. The secretary mentioned that Her Majesty needs more time and that the situation requires delicate handling. The conversation ended abruptly when the secretary noticed James nearby. Lady Sarah Pemberton arrived again, this time accompanied by her husband, Lord Pemberton, who rarely visited the palace. They carried multiple documents and appeared to be in deep discussion as they walked toward the Queen's chambers. Lady Sarah looked as though she hadn't slept well, and her usual composed demeanor seemed strained. The palace's private telephone lines were unusually busy throughout the morning. James noticed that several staff members were making calls from the secure communication room, and each conversation seemed urgent. The head of protocol was seen rushing between different offices with stacks of papers. Around midday, James was asked to escort a new visitor to Queen Camilla's quarters. The man introduced himself as Mr. Alexander Reed, though he provided no other details about his purpose. He carried a locked briefcase and wore an expensive suit that suggested he held an important position somewhere. His manner was professional but secretive. During lunch break, James overheard a conversation between 2 senior staff members in the cafeteria. They mentioned that Queen Camilla had been making numerous personal phone calls to various members of the extended royal family. Several of these family members were reportedly making arrangements to visit the palace over the next few days. The afternoon brought an unexpected visit from Prince William and Catherine. They arrived without their usual entourage and went directly to meet with Queen Camilla. Their visit lasted nearly 2 hours, which was much longer than their typical courtesy calls. When they emerged, both appeared concerned and spoke quietly together as they left. James noticed that the palace's head of public relations had arrived and was working frantically in his office. Multiple drafts of what appeared to be press statements were being printed, reviewed, and revised. The office staff seemed to be preparing for some kind of major announcement. The royal photographer was called to the palace and spent considerable time in Queen Camilla's private quarters. This was unusual because formal photographs were typically taken in designated rooms with proper lighting setups. The informal nature of this photo session suggested it might be for personal, rather than official purposes. Late in the afternoon, King Charles returned from his scheduled engagements earlier than planned. He went immediately to Queen Camilla's chambers and remained there for over an hour. When he emerged, his expression was somber, and he spoke briefly with his private secretary before retiring to his study. The evening shift brought new developments. James observed that several rooms in the Queen's private quarters were being packed by her personal staff. Boxes and suitcases were being carefully filled with personal belongings, though the staff was being very discreet about their activities. Dr. Hayes made a third visit to the palace, this time staying well into the evening. He was joined by what appeared to be a team of medical professionals, including a woman who carried equipment that James didn't recognize. The medical team remained in the Queen's chambers for several hours. The palace's senior communications staff held an emergency meeting in the evening. James could see through the conference room windows that they were reviewing multiple documents and making numerous phone calls. Several news outlets were mentioned during their discussions, though James couldn't hear the specific details. Queen Camilla's personal chef received unusual instructions for the evening meal. Instead of the formal dinner that was originally planned, he was asked to prepare a simple, light meal that could be easily served in the Queen's private dining room. The kitchen staff was told that there would be no formal dinner service that evening. As the evening progressed, James noticed that the blue-white light he had observed the previous night was visible again beneath Queen Camilla's door. However, tonight it was accompanied by the sounds of multiple voices engaged in what seemed to be serious discussions. The conversations continued well past the Queen's usual bedtime. The night security team received special instructions to maintain extra vigilance around the Queen's quarters. All personnel were reminded of their confidentiality agreements and told that any breach of security protocol would result in immediate dismissal. The emphasis on secrecy was stronger than James had ever experienced. Before ending his shift, James walked past the Queen's chambers one final time. The voices had stopped, but the unusual lighting remained. He could hear the sound of papers being shuffled and what might have been someone typing on a computer. The activity suggested that important work was being completed behind those doors. As James prepared to leave the palace, he reflected on the day's unusual events. The combination of medical visits, legal consultations, family meetings, and secretive activities pointed to something significant happening in Queen Camilla's life. His experience told him that tomorrow would bring even more revelations, and the mystery behind the Queen's door was about to be revealed. The third day dawned with an air of barely contained anticipation throughout Buckingham Palace. James arrived to find that the media presence outside the gates had doubled overnight. Reporters and camera crews from major news networks around the world had gathered, though no official announcement had been made about what they were waiting for. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was thick with tension. James noticed that several senior staff members who typically maintained their professional composure were showing signs of stress. The head butler's hands trembled slightly as he arranged the morning papers, and the palace manager kept checking her phone every few minutes. Queen Camilla's personal secretary, Miss Victoria Sterling, appeared exhausted as she hurried through the corridors carrying multiple files. When James offered a polite greeting, she barely acknowledged him, which was completely unlike her normally courteous manner. Her usual attention to detail seemed scattered, and she dropped several papers that James helped her collect. The morning brought an unexpected visitor in the form of Archbishop Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. His unscheduled arrival was noted by security, and he was immediately escorted to Queen Camilla's chambers. Religious visits of this nature outside of official ceremonies were extremely rare and suggested matters of profound importance. Dr. Hayes arrived for the fourth consecutive day, this time with a small team that included what appeared to be specialists in different medical fields. They carried sophisticated equipment that James had never seen before in the palace. The medical team remained in the Queen's quarters for most of the morning, emerging only briefly to request additional supplies. James overheard a conversation between two senior palace officials discussing the need to manage the situation carefully and ensure that all protocols are followed precisely. They mentioned something about timing being crucial and the importance of maintaining dignity throughout whatever process was unfolding. Lady Sarah Pemberton returned with her daughter Emma, who was visibly emotional. Emma had always been close to Queen Camilla, considering her almost like a second mother. The fact that she had been called to the palace during what was clearly a difficult time suggested that personal relationships were being prioritized over official duties. The palace's legal team held an extended meeting in the morning. James observed several prominent lawyers entering the building, including Mr. Geoffrey Harrison, who was known to handle the most sensitive royal legal matters. They carried multiple briefcases and appeared to be prepared for complex legal proceedings. Around midday, James was assigned to a new post closer to Queen Camilla's chambers. This unusual change in his routine placement meant that he could observe more of the activities in that area. He noticed that the Queen's personal staff was moving with a sense of urgency that suggested important deadlines were approaching. Prince Harry arrived unexpectedly from California, accompanied only by his security detail. His sudden appearance without prior announcement indicated that the situation was serious enough to warrant immediate family presence. He went directly to Queen Camilla's chambers, where he remained for an extended period. The afternoon brought a visit from the Queen's financial advisors and representatives from the Royal Estate Management Team. They carried numerous documents and seemed to be conducting important business related to Queen Camilla's personal affairs. Their serious expressions and formal manner suggested significant financial or estate matters were being addressed. James noticed that Queen Camilla's personal maid, Maria, was spending considerably more time than usual in the Queen's chambers. Typically, royal quarters were cleaned efficiently and quickly, but Maria seemed to be taking extra care with every detail. When she emerged, her eyes were red, though she tried to hide her emotional state. The palace's head of protocol received multiple phone calls throughout the afternoon, each seemingly more urgent than the last. James could see through the office window that she was consulting multiple reference books and making extensive notes. The preparation suggested that some kind of formal announcement or ceremony was being planned. Dr. Hayes emerged from Queen Camilla's chambers in the late afternoon and spent considerable time speaking with King Charles in his private study. Their conversation was clearly serious, and both men appeared deeply concerned. When their meeting concluded, King Charles immediately made several phone calls from his secure line. The evening brought an unusual gathering of Queen Camilla's closest friends and family members. Lady Sarah, Emma, Prince William, Catherine, Prince Harry, and several other individuals whom James recognized as longtime personal friends were all present in the palace simultaneously. Such gatherings typically occurred only during holidays or major celebrations. James observed that the catering staff had been asked to prepare food for a larger group than usual, but in an informal style that suggested a family gathering rather than an official function. The kitchen staff seemed confused by the unusual request but worked diligently to accommodate the special requirements. The Queen's personal photographer returned and spent the evening taking what appeared to be candid, informal photographs of Queen Camilla with her family and friends. The session seemed emotional, with many participants appearing to fight back tears. The photographer worked quietly and respectfully, capturing moments that seemed deeply personal. As night approached, James noticed that the unusual blue-white light in Queen Camilla's chambers had been replaced by the warm glow of candles. The change in lighting created a more intimate atmosphere, and the sounds from within the room were softer than the previous night's urgent conversations. The palace's communication team worked late into the evening, with several members staying well past their usual hours. They appeared to be finalizing important documents and coordinating with various media outlets. The level of preparation suggested that a significant announcement was imminent. King Charles made several more visits to Queen Camilla's chambers throughout the evening, each time staying for extended periods. Their meetings appeared to be deeply personal rather than official, and Charles's demeanor suggested he was providing emotional support during a difficult time. The night security briefing included special instructions about maintaining absolute privacy and security around the Queen's quarters. Commander Roberts emphasized that the next 24 hours would be crucial, and that all personnel should be prepared for potential changes in routine protocols. Before ending his shift, James made his final rounds with a heavy heart. The combination of medical consultations, legal preparations, family gatherings, and emotional atmosphere suggested that Queen Camilla was facing a serious personal crisis. The mystery that had been building over the past 3 days was clearly approaching its resolution. As James walked past Queen Camilla's chambers for the last time that evening, he could hear soft voices engaged in what sounded like heartfelt conversations. The candlelight flickering beneath the door created dancing shadows in the corridor, and the atmosphere felt both peaceful and profoundly sad. Tomorrow would undoubtedly bring the answers to the questions that had been building throughout the week. The fourth morning arrived with an unusual stillness that seemed to blanket the entire palace. James noticed immediately that the typical bustle of daily activities had been replaced by a reverent quiet that reminded him of the atmosphere during state funerals. The staff moved with careful, measured steps, speaking only in whispers when absolutely necessary. Commander Roberts called an emergency briefing for the entire security team. His face was grave as he announced that Queen Camilla had requested complete privacy for the day, and that no one except specifically authorized personnel would be permitted near her chambers. The level of security restriction was unprecedented in James's experience. Dr. Hayes arrived early with his full medical team, including several specialists whom James now recognized from their previous visits. They brought additional equipment, including what appeared to be monitoring devices and specialized medical supplies. The team's serious demeanor and the nature of their equipment suggested they were preparing for a significant medical event. The palace chaplain, Reverend Dr. Mark Oakley, arrived for an extended private session with Queen Camilla. His presence, combined with the Archbishop's visit the previous day, indicated that spiritual matters were playing an important role in whatever Queen Camilla was facing. Religious guidance during times of crisis was common among the royal family. James was assigned to maintain a security perimeter around the entire East Wing, effectively creating a private sanctuary for Queen Camilla and her closest family members. This level of isolation was typically reserved for matters of national security or profound personal significance. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than usual. Prince William and Catherine arrived with their children, who were escorted to a playroom in a different section of the palace. The fact that the grandchildren had been brought suggested that this might be an opportunity for final family moments together. The children's presence added both joy and poignancy to the atmosphere. King Charles spent the entire morning in Queen Camilla's chambers, emerging only briefly to speak with the medical team and make essential phone calls. His assistants handled all official duties for the day, which was highly unusual given his dedication to maintaining his royal schedule even during personal difficulties. The palace's head of communications worked frantically to coordinate with various government offices and media outlets. James observed multiple secure phone calls and saw several drafts of what appeared to be official statements being reviewed and revised. The preparation suggested that a major announcement was being carefully crafted. Lady Sarah Pemberton remained at the palace throughout the morning, serving as both friend and support to Queen Camilla. She coordinated with the staff to ensure that everything Queen Camilla needed was immediately available. Her loyalty and dedication during this difficult time demonstrated the depth of their friendship. The medical team's activities became more intensive as the day progressed. James noticed that they were bringing in additional equipment and supplies, suggesting that Queen Camilla's condition required increasingly specialized care. The team worked with quiet efficiency, maintaining the dignity and privacy that the situation demanded. Around midday, James was approached by Miss Sterling, Queen Camilla's personal secretary, who handed him a sealed envelope. She explained that Queen Camilla had specifically requested that he receive this personal message. The unexpected honor of receiving direct communication from the Queen left James deeply moved. The letter, written in Queen Camilla's elegant handwriting, thanked James for his 23 years of faithful service and dedication to protecting the royal family. She expressed her gratitude for his discretion, professionalism, and the comfort his presence had provided during both joyful and difficult times. The personal nature of the message suggested she was saying goodbye. Prince Harry spent considerable time in private conversation with Queen Camilla, their reunion clearly emotional for both of them. Despite the various challenges and changes in royal relationships over recent years, the personal bond between stepmother and stepson remained strong. Their time together seemed to provide comfort to both. The afternoon brought visits from several of Queen Camilla's closest friends from her life before joining the royal family. These women, who had shared decades of friendship with her, provided emotional support and companionship during what was clearly a difficult period. Their presence helped maintain connection to her personal history and identity. James observed that the palace staff was being especially attentive to every detail of Queen Camilla's care and comfort. Fresh flowers were arranged frequently in her chambers. Her favorite foods were prepared exactly to her preferences, and every request was fulfilled immediately. The staff's dedication reflected their genuine affection for her. Dr. Hayes held a private consultation with King Charles and the immediate family members. The meeting lasted for over an hour and appeared to involve detailed discussions about medical decisions and future planning. When they emerged, everyone appeared emotionally drained, but seemed to have reached important understandings. The Queen's personal photographer continued documenting precious family moments throughout the day. The photographs being taken were clearly for personal rather than official purposes, capturing intimate family interactions that would become treasured memories. The photographer worked with sensitivity to the emotional atmosphere. As evening approached, the palace's atmosphere became even more subdued. The usual end-of-workday activities were minimized, and only essential staff remained on duty. The building itself seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for whatever resolution was approaching. Queen Camilla's favorite classical music could be heard softly playing in her chambers, creating a peaceful ambiance. James recognized the pieces as ones she had often requested during formal events over the years. The familiar melodies seemed to provide comfort and continuity during uncertainty. The evening meal was prepared as an intimate family dinner, with only Queen Camilla's closest family members present. The dining was arranged in her private quarters rather than the formal dining rooms, emphasizing the personal nature of what might be their final meals together. King Charles made arrangements for their beloved dogs to spend time with Queen Camilla in her chambers. The pets seemed to sense the emotional atmosphere and remained close to her, providing the unconditional comfort that animals uniquely offer during difficult times. Their presence brought moments of lightness to heavy hearts. The night security briefing emphasized the continued need for absolute privacy and discretion. Commander Roberts reminded all personnel that they were witnessing history and that their professional conduct during this time would be remembered as part of their service to the crown. As James prepared for what he sensed might be his final night shift of this extraordinary week, he reflected on the privilege of serving during such a significant moment in royal history. The mystery behind Queen Camilla's door was no longer a mystery to him, though the full revelation would come soon enough. The palace settled into a peaceful quiet as night fell, with only the soft sounds of family conversations and gentle music drifting through the corridors. Tomorrow would bring the conclusion to this emotional journey, and James prepared himself to witness whatever final chapter was about to unfold. The fifth day arrived with a profound sense of finality that permeated every corner of Buckingham Palace. James began his shift knowing that this would likely be the day when the mystery that had been unfolding throughout the week would reach its conclusion. The atmosphere was heavy with emotion, yet there was also a sense of peace that suggested acceptance of whatever was to come. Commander Roberts gathered the security team for what he described as the most important briefing of their careers. He explained that Queen Camilla had made the difficult decision to step down from her royal duties due to a serious health condition that required her full attention and treatment. The news hit the security team like a physical blow, as they had all grown to respect and care for the Queen during her years of service. The medical team's presence had become more intensive overnight. Dr. Hayes and his specialists were now working in shifts to ensure continuous care and monitoring. The equipment in Queen Camilla's chambers had been expanded to include specialized devices that would help manage her condition and provide comfort during the challenging days ahead. King Charles appeared visibly aged by the emotional weight of the situation. He moved through the palace with the bearing of a man carrying an enormous burden, yet his dedication to supporting his wife never wavered. James observed him spending every possible moment at Queen Camilla's side, holding her hand and providing the strength she needed during this difficult time. Prince William and Catherine had extended their stay at the palace to provide family support during this crucial period. Their children had been gently informed about their grandmother's condition in age-appropriate terms, and they spent precious time creating artwork and cards to bring her comfort. The innocent love of children provided bright moments during dark days. The Archbishop of Canterbury returned for an extended spiritual consultation with Queen Camilla and the immediate family. Their discussions focused on finding peace, accepting life's challenges with grace, and drawing strength from faith during times of trial. The religious guidance provided comfort to everyone involved in this emotional journey. Lady Sarah Pemberton had essentially moved into the palace to provide constant companionship and support to her dearest friend. Their relationship, built over decades of shared experiences, proved to be one of Queen Camilla's greatest sources of strength. Lady Sarah's unwavering loyalty demonstrated the power of true friendship during life's most challenging moments. The palace's communication team worked carefully to prepare public statements that would inform the nation while maintaining Queen Camilla's dignity and privacy. The challenge was to provide necessary information while respecting the deeply personal nature of her health struggles. Every word was chosen with care and consideration. James noticed that Queen Camilla's personal staff had been quietly organizing her belongings and preparing for her transition to a more private life. The process was handled with the utmost respect and care, ensuring that her treasured possessions and memories were properly preserved. Each item held special significance and required thoughtful attention. Dr. Hayes spent considerable time explaining Queen Camilla's condition and treatment options to the family. While James couldn't hear the specific details, it was clear that difficult decisions were being made about her care and future. The medical consultations provided essential information for planning the road ahead. The Queen's personal photographer was documenting these final days in her official role, creating a visual record of her grace and dignity during challenging circumstances. The photographs would serve as a testament to her strength and character, showing how she faced adversity with courage and composure. Prince Harry spent extended time in private conversation with Queen Camilla, their relationship having evolved into one of mutual respect and affection over the years. Despite past challenges and misunderstandings, their bond remained strong, and he was determined to provide support during her time of need. The palace staff demonstrated their genuine affection for Queen Camilla through countless small acts of kindness and consideration. Fresh flowers appeared regularly in her chambers. Her favorite foods were prepared with extra care, and every comfort was provided to make her remaining time in the palace as pleasant as possible. King Charles made arrangements for Queen Camilla's favorite classical musicians to perform privately in her chambers. The beautiful music provided comfort and joy during difficult moments, creating an atmosphere of peace and beauty that helped sustain her spirits. Music had always been one of her greatest sources of pleasure. The afternoon brought visits from several charities and organizations that Queen Camilla had supported throughout her royal career. While she was no longer able to fulfill official duties, she wanted to personally thank the people who had worked alongside her to make positive differences in countless lives. James observed that the blue-white light that had initially caught his attention days earlier was actually from specialized medical equipment that monitored Queen Camilla's condition continuously. The mysterious glow that had sparked his curiosity was simply advanced technology working to ensure her health and safety during this challenging time. The evening meal was arranged as a celebration of Queen Camilla's life and service, rather than a somber gathering. Family and close friends shared stories, memories, and expressions of love and gratitude. The atmosphere was bittersweet, but filled with appreciation for the time they had shared together. As night approached, Queen Camilla requested time alone with King Charles to discuss their future plans and express their feelings privately. Their love story, which had faced many challenges over the years, continued to demonstrate the power of commitment and devotion during life's most difficult tests. The palace's evening atmosphere was peaceful, yet emotional. Staff members who had worked with Queen Camilla for years took opportunities to express their gratitude and respect for her kindness and leadership. She had always treated everyone with dignity and consideration, regardless of their position or status. James received word that Queen Camilla wanted to personally thank him for his years of faithful service before her departure from official royal duties. The opportunity to speak with her directly about his experiences and receive her personal appreciation would be one of the greatest honors of his career. The night security briefing emphasized that tomorrow would bring the public announcement of Queen Camilla's decision to step down from royal duties. The staff was reminded of their continued commitment to privacy and discretion as the royal family navigated this transition with dignity and grace. As James prepared for what might be his final night shift during this extraordinary week, he reflected on the privilege of witnessing such courage and grace during adversity. Queen Camilla's strength in facing her health challenges with dignity would inspire everyone who had the honor of serving her during this difficult time. The sixth and final day of this extraordinary week arrived with a mixture of sadness and profound respect throughout Buckingham Palace. James began what he knew would be his last shift before Queen Camilla's departure from official royal duties, carrying with him the weight of having witnessed one of the most courageous displays of grace under pressure in modern royal history. The morning brought the arrival of several moving vehicles, though they were positioned discreetly away from public view to maintain privacy during Queen Camilla's transition. Professional staff worked quietly to pack her personal belongings with the care and respect that such treasured possessions deserved. Each item told a story of her remarkable journey from private citizen to beloved queen. Dr. Hayes and his medical team conducted their final assessments and preparations for Queen Camilla's ongoing care and her new living arrangements. The specialized equipment that had been monitoring her condition was carefully packed for transport, ensuring continuity of care during this important transition. Her medical needs would continue to be expertly managed in a more private setting. King Charles spent the morning making final arrangements for Queen Camilla's comfort and care. His devotion during this difficult time had demonstrated the depth of their relationship and his unwavering commitment to supporting her through every challenge. Their love story continued to inspire everyone who witnessed their partnership during adversity. The palace's communication team finalized the official statement that would be released to the public later that morning. The carefully crafted message explained Queen Camilla's decision to step down from royal duties to focus on her health, while expressing gratitude for the nation's support and understanding during this personal journey. Queen Camilla requested a private meeting with each of her closest staff members to personally thank them for their service and dedication. These individual conversations were deeply emotional as she expressed genuine appreciation for their loyalty and friendship. Many staff members had worked with her for years and considered her more than just their employer. James was honored to be among those invited for a personal farewell conversation with Queen Camilla. In her private sitting room, surrounded by photographs and mementos from her years of royal service, she thanked him for his 23 years of faithful protection and dedication to the royal family. During their conversation, Queen Camilla revealed that she had been battling a serious illness for several months, but had continued her royal duties as long as possible. Her determination to serve the nation despite her health challenges demonstrated remarkable courage and dedication. She had finally reached the point where her treatment required her full attention. She explained that the mysterious activities James had observed over the past week were actually preparations for her transition to private life and the arrangements necessary for her ongoing medical care. The legal consultations, family meetings, and medical appointments were all part of ensuring a smooth and dignified departure from official duties. Queen Camilla expressed particular gratitude for James's discretion and professionalism during this sensitive time. She acknowledged that his keen observations and respectful behavior had helped maintain the privacy and dignity that her situation required. His years of service had not gone unnoticed or unappreciated. The farewell gathering in Queen Camilla's chambers brought together her closest family members and friends for final expressions of love and support. The atmosphere was emotional but filled with hope for her recovery and peace in her new chapter. Everyone understood that this transition, while difficult, was necessary for her well-being. Prince William, Catherine, and their children presented Queen Camilla with a specially created photo album containing pictures from their favorite family moments together. The gift was deeply meaningful, representing the continuation of family bonds, despite changes in official roles and responsibilities. Of Prince Harry's presence during these final hours demonstrated the healing power of family love during times of crisis. Their relationship had grown stronger through this experience, proving that personal connections transcend public difficulties. His support meant everything to Queen Camilla during this transition. Lady Sarah Pemberton would be accompanying Queen Camilla to her new residence, ensuring that her dearest friend would continue to receive the companionship and support that had sustained her throughout this journey. Their friendship remained one of the most precious gifts in Queen Camilla's life. The palace staff gathered to bid farewell to Queen Camilla as she prepared to depart. Their genuine affection and respect were evident in every face, and many struggled to maintain their composure as they said goodbye to someone who had always treated them with kindness and consideration. As Queen Camilla's departure time approached, James took his final position in the corridor outside her chambers. He reflected on the extraordinary week of observing courage, dignity, and grace under the most challenging circumstances. Her behavior during this crisis would serve as an inspiration for years to come. The actual departure was conducted with quiet dignity, away from public scrutiny and media attention. Queen Camilla walked through the palace corridors one last time as the Queen, acknowledging the staff who had served her faithfully. Her composure and grace during this emotional moment impressed everyone present. King Charles accompanied Queen Camilla to her new residence, where he would continue to provide support and care throughout her treatment and recovery. Their commitment to each other remained unwavering, demonstrating that true partnerships endure through all of life's challenges and changes. The palace felt different after Queen Camilla's departure, as though an important chapter had concluded while a new one was beginning. The staff gradually returned to their duties, carrying with them memories of serving someone who had faced adversity with remarkable strength and dignity. James completed his final security report of this extraordinary week, documenting the successful protection of the royal family during a sensitive and challenging time. His observations and discretion had contributed to maintaining the privacy and dignity that Queen Camilla deserved during her transition. As James prepared to leave Buckingham Palace at the end of his shift, he carried with him profound respect for Queen Camilla's courage and gratitude for the privilege of serving during such a significant moment in royal history. The mystery behind her chamber door had revealed not scandal or intrigue, but rather a demonstration of human dignity in the face of life's greatest challenges. The public announcement of Queen Camilla's decision was received with understanding and support from the nation. Her honesty about her health challenges and her decision to prioritize her well-being resonated with people facing their own difficulties. Her final act as queen was teaching others about courage, grace, and the importance of accepting help when needed. James's career as a royal guard concluded with the knowledge that he had witnessed and protected one of the most inspiring examples of strength and dignity in modern royal history. Queen Camilla's response to her health crisis would be remembered as a testament to the power of facing adversity with grace, surrounded by love and support.